and welcome to Literacy Instruction for Learners with Diverse Needs. My name is Kelly Wiggett, and I'm an adjunct professor at Monmouth University, teaching English as a second language.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Susan Lucenta. I'm an adjunct professor here at Monmouth University, and my background is in special education.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dawn Ward. I'm an adjunct instructor here at Monmouth University. My specialty area is K-8 curriculum and instruction. Welcome. We're happy to have you.
So we have three things we're going to go over today. We're going to provide strategies that teachers can use in their concentration areas of English as a second language, special education, and gifted and talented, and we only have 40 minutes to do this. Are you ready to get started? Yes. Okay, so we have an introduction activity for you, so if you have any extra pocketbooks or anything you might want to put on the floor, the only thing that you should have on your table is the box of spaghetti, the marshmallows, and the big piece of paper in which you are going to build the biggest tower you possibly can in the next 5 minutes. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, ready? We're talking about differentiating instruction, strategic planning, and what it takes to actually come together as a team to build the tallest tower. Much like it is in a classroom where you differentiate instruction and you collaborate among staff and teachers. So if you could just take a minute or two and point out something or maybe discuss something that you felt was the most important part of your building this tower. Yes, the winning group, no?
Oh, we both, everybody here collectively agreed that we should have a strong base to begin.
Okay, so we had some strategic planning.
Okay, good. Strategic planning. Anybody else want to share anything at their tables? Yes.
We all work for a common goal.
You all worked for a common goal, building the tallest tower. Great. Anybody else?
We did look on other teams to see how they supported us.
Oh, that's nice.
So we did, and we saw that using the two.
And that's important, right? To look at what everybody else is doing that's actually working and incorporating it in your style. Very good, thank you. So I'm going to start with the ESL strategies in your classroom. I'm going to start the beginning of the presentation and we'll go from there.
And we would like you to please take out in your packet Paul Revere's Ride, poems, and please keep these ideas in mind as we move through our presentation, as we will be adjusting them throughout.
This is right here. Take a second.
But we're going to work around that.
We'll clean that up later, don't worry. Just bear with the mess.
Or you could eat the marshmallows, Bob. I don't really think you want to do it.
There's probably some left over. Maybe you want to munch on them.
I do.
Go ahead.
So we're going to talk about English language learners, English as a second language in the classroom. And one of the most important things is for a student that has a background of a different language than the target language is that they need to see things in order to make a connection. If they don't have a visual, it's just a bunch of words to them. So one of the most important things is to be able for them to comprehend and show them as much as possible. Good readers create visual images or pictures in their minds as they are reading. Much like when I read something, I already have something in my mind about what it is. Your interpretation of reading a novel might be different than my interpretation depending upon what we have as prior knowledge. And that is exactly what has to take place here. If a child doesn't have any of these pictures to associate the words with, they're not going to be able to make a connection as a language learner. For example, this is part of the Paul Revere poem that Miss Ward asked you to take out. It says, "Then he climbed the tower of the Old North Church." Well, that's okay for me, because I grew up looking at a church, maybe something sort of like with New England in a tower. But if you're from other countries, you might not have that same association. My student, Salvadorian, picked this picture because that reminded him of his country, a purple church. Okay, so it's important. Students learning another language lack this visual connection until they can make associations with those words. So this is what they're going to see. It's in Spanish. I put it there for people like me who are not fluent in Spanish. If I was given a Paul Revere's Ride, that's exactly what I would see, a bunch of words. I really can't make any association and connection to any of them unless they kind of sort of look like the normal words that I would have in English. But most of the times they're not. So how can we make this a way that our students in our classroom who get pieces of literature understand and connect to what they're learning? What can teachers do to help aid student comprehension? So you have the poll reviewers right here. So I'm going to go over 5 components of VSL that you can quickly bring back into your school and your district that you can do right away that will guarantee that these students will have at least a better start than just looking at the text. 1, make a connection to students' culture, which we're going to go over on each individual slide. Provide a learning-centered classroom that's interactive, allowing them to communicate and speak, not just in the target language, but their language, so that they can talk and associate. Provide continuous modeling, break down the material into sections, not giving them the whole text. Provide visuals and graphic organizers, which we all probably are doing anyway. So, making connections to students' culture. Students need to make connections with their culture to understand what they're learning. I think of a bird, I think of a blue jay. I think of those birds that I grew up with. It doesn't matter if a language learner thinks of a bird and thinks of a parrot. They're making the same association, they just have their own uniqueness. And that's what you're going to find. When you talk about fruit or you talk about something in your classroom, make sure you kind of bring their culture in and talk about it. Because sometimes they might feel uncomfortable. I think of a fruit, I think of an apple, I think of a pear. They might not be thinking that, they might be thinking mangoes and oranges or pineapples. So you have to kind of make that connection with them. Provide a classroom that allows them to collaborate like you just did there. That's a perfect activity, hands-on project that ESL language learners can do in their classroom. It gives them an opportunity to ask questions with their peers instead of asking constant questions with the teachers. And I don't know if this is my last slide for that, but break down the material. So if I took the first paragraph in Paul Revere, I would never put it on here, or I would never give it to the students like that. I would always make sure I have a visual there. I take out the 4 key components of every single paragraph. That's the way I teach. However, you can choose what you want to do, but I put what's specific. I put something that's an action. Providing them an action will allow them to think for themselves when they're reading the context. Anything with dates will help, right, as a reader. Because this is history, and it says, listen, my children, you shall hear the midnight of Paul Revere, because this happened in the 18th of April, I put something as monumental up here to let them know that this is important, that this is an important time, and obviously a photo. So just teaching this small section, that's the amount of work you would have to put into it to just get the child to get an introduction. Okay, good. Oh, and then that was my part for the presentation. I'm going to hand it over to Susan.
Okay, good morning